but these numbers are really hard to digest. Like,
Yes,
you know,
yes.
so do you anticipate like anything major? And again, it's hard to, things happen, but
So, yeah, I totally agree with you, Michelle. I think those numbers are, as I said in the beginning, it doesn't give me great pleasure to present these numbers. What we're looking at, there is work still to be done at Maitland that we did not do last year. We had Ion Engineering take a look at the ramp that is in the back exit, which does not meet code and it's falling apart, it's rotten. We chose not to deal with that last year. However, there are some other small items that we're looking at. There is a grant that I'm currently working on with Shannon that we're hoping to put something together to cover these other things that need to happen at Merck. But as far as major investments like we did last year, no. I think, as I said earlier, I think we've made a really good dent in it, Michelle. I really do. Where the capital costs will increase is if we have new initiatives. If we go with the dog park, if we go with the accessible kayak, things like that. Yes.
I suggest we, go ahead, Michelle.
no, that's fine. That's fine right now.
I sort of have the same feeling. There was a lot of work done because of the CCRF. But it's hard to swallow 25,000 an area. So I'm suggesting we take 65,000 out of there, that whole group. So basically, Donville would end up with 10,000, the rest of them would end up with 15,000. Because I don't think, and just I think a lot of it's done with the CCRF. I think, I just shudder when we hear grant again. Because we gotta think twice when we accept a grant. I'm not just saying recreation, but anything else too, because there's always a percentage we have to pay back. And that's what we forget about, So I think if you guys get a grant, staff gets a grant, bring it in front of this council, because we're gonna think twice, accept it or not.
This would
Because it
cost
sounds
us,
great,
Yeah,
you're getting all this money, and you can do this, and the public will be happy, but now we're stuck with this. Add to our debt, so.
so through your worship,
Yeah.
this one that we're applying for will not cost anything.
Well, that's fine.
It's,
Yeah.
it's totally covered.
If it's free, yay.
Well, and that's.
Well, they
our goal.
haven't been.
Well, the
know,
CCRF is what it is,
so-
right?
And I think, the CCRF, I think if we were on the ball, we might have thought twice about that.
Yeah.
But, I can think of 1,000 reasons, why. But, anyway, it was done. So, and it helped our community a lot better, so, but now we're paying the price. So that's one question I do have. What do we got left in the CCRF to pay back? Yeah,
So, yeah, currently in the budget right now, there is a contribution to the CCRF, which is sitting as a liability in the balance sheet. So right now, there's a current amount due of 350,000. And we're looking at putting a payment in of 100,000 this year to pay it down. So,
350, yeah.
so we'll be down to 250 if council keeps $100,000 in the budget for this year.
Go ahead, Scott.
But I think as far as association wish list, I think it should all be on a cost share basis. And, and not necessarily 50-50. We may only kick in 25 or 30% if they have something they really want, because all the associations are now making decent money.
Yeah,
The only thing I will caution on that is that right now you've got one group, Maynard, that does not have the ability to create revenue like the other organizations because they don't have a facility. They got their pickleball and they got their outdoor rink, but they don't have a facility where they can charge rent, hold events, all that stuff. And the one thing I will note is that in this budget, so we have applied to for the Maynard Recreation Building. We haven't gotten any word yet on where we're sitting at that, but if we did get the funding for that, they would fund 70% and we would have to come up with the 30%. So our share would be about $300,000 to $350,000. That's not in the budget because we don't know if we're getting the grant. that's something that we could go back to the recreation group if we did get it and say, okay, we'll cover 50% of it. You guys, community fund the other 150,000. That's not there yet.
Can I
Okay.
also add something?
Yeah, go ahead, Michelle.
Also, like the accountability of the recreation committees, I'm not saying that they're not work cost worthy or whatever, but one example is, Donville didn't winterize a pump or something, so then that's a cost that we had to pay for. Where does, like, another thing is Maynard, the outdoor rink, like, for how long were the lights on all night? Should we look at maybe putting a timer on it and saying, maybe it's only available till midnight? Again, they're just little things, but
Yep.
if every recreation committee did that, and again, I'm not saying they're not, but there has to be a little bit of accountability too.
Through your worship, Michelle, I hear what you're saying. That was in 2023 that the rec committee did that. In 2024, that was done by a plumbing company to have it winterized. I'm not taking any chances. So
Yeah.
we had that done. As far as the lights go at Maynard, right? You're talking about Maynard?
Yep.
So at the Maynard meeting the other night, there was a conversation about putting a timer on instead of using the toggle switch. That is active. We are looking at that. However, they can't pay for that. We will have to pay for that.
Right.
So it's those small things that I want to point out that add up.
Yep.
The unexpected, we've already spent for Maitland. We had a leak there in January. I had to have all the truss core taken down. Secureway had to come in, remove the pull down fire alarm so that we could get access. So all those things are unexpected. And those are the things that will trip us up in the budget.
But that's like a snowplow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but your budget, what you think? So,
Yeah, 25.
no,
I just had to.
Yeah.
yeah,
So just a few things. So, as I said before, we can reduce it to any number you guys want. The reality is that things come across that need to be done, they need to be done. So we can move it to 15,000. Look at what we spent over the last few years. We've been over that, and we could be over that again this year. But I also think too is, although it is a lot of money, $25,000 for each group. If you look at what you're getting though from the volunteers, putting that into dollars, we're still further ahead than if we didn't have our volunteers.
Yeah.
We're well over $100,000 is probably what we're getting every year in our volunteers helping us. So, I think you have to play that into it a little bit. And then if we go back to the summer day camps, if council wants to look at increasing it, here's what I would suggest. You could increase for residents right now from 175 to 200. We're talking about whoever's paid so far, and I've just talked to Ann. We've got a handful that have paid so far. We could add that $25 so that anybody moving forward now pays 200 if they're a resident. And then we increase for non-residents by $75 to 250. So $200 if you're a resident, 250 if you're a non-resident. And then we can review it again in the fall to see what council wants to do for the following year. But those to me are pretty easy fixes that would reduce kind of the deficit for the summer day camp.
that's, before we get into that, I don't wanna leave that subject, I get some. So, does everybody agree with that?
Yes.
Michelle?
I do. Yep. Yes.
So if you're in agreement, I'll get, the clerk can write a resolution here. And we'll just change it. Right, so the other thing is, you gotta remember last year, I think it's last year, we had people looking after the expenses that didn't have an idea what they were doing. It's not somebody, and yeah.
Yeah.
2 years ago, 2 years ago.
With Maynard.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes,
So,
yes.
when we set the budget here, we have somebody looking after the expense.
Yeah. And
So if they go over, they should be coming to council and saying, we got a problem.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and then we know, but, that's how it should, well, in any department, basically, that's should what happens.
And I think that's the advantage of having, when there's grant money to be spent, it needs to be overseen by the township rather than the community groups, because in the end, the township's the one that's paying the difference. And of that $350,000 that we are in the hole on, some of that is due to projects being over under the CCRF because we didn't have the control on it
Exactly.
and decisions made without our
We have
input.
control
Exactly.
now, so don't add the fluff in the budget. Monitor the budget, and if they need more money, they'll come back.
Yeah.
to us, the manager or.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the one thing in this, okay, if that's what this money for Roebuck, North Augusta and whatever's for, it's very confusing that you put, so that means 25,000, that's what you're allowed to spend in Roebuck and then that's it? Or 25,000 in North Augusta, that's it? It should be just one item for the rec centers. And whether that item was 30,000 or 40,000 or 50,000, it could go to wherever it needs, because you said, you got a problem, we have to fix it no matter what. So rather than have this broke down separate, because you're gonna get residents looking at this, if they look at this operating budget, say, hey, you can spend 25,000 in North Augusta, and why didn't you spend 25,000? You know,
Yeah.
so it's more or less, it's an asset management thing, right? So
Yeah.
we should be putting so much money away for our asset management rec builders.
Yeah, certainly I don't disagree, and I think the reason why sometimes it's good to have it separated is you actually get to identify the full cost of each facility, right? Whereas if you have one, it gets all buried in, but there's ways that you can get around that to kind of pull
Well,
that
yeah,
stuff
I
out,
mean, we
right?
get that anyway, like we get that from Public Works and on what we spend on each truck and the parts and
Yeah,
whatever.
it'd be like a cost center type of thing or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could come up with something like that, but you have like one allocation and that does all.
That's
the
right, and that
decisions.
way,
Yeah.
that way, one association is gonna say, well, you only get 15, and you get 25, and you get this.
Yep.
Now, how much was spent?
Yep.
Yeah. It's for operating expenses.
I mean, one thing, and I know we've discussed it, and it's just something that I want to keep coming back to is we're recovering a lot of costs for a lot of these facilities. Some, Donville and Maine are pretty much the only two that don't have an income source. They make pretty good business. We don't have the slightest idea how much or where that money is going. And I've heard it on the street from our residents, and they're like, so you're putting all this money in, what are they doing? What are they spending their money on that you guys, or the taxpayers, are paying this? So I think that what we need to do, and I know we've talked about it, but I think that we really need to do this to be fiscally responsible, is to get a better handle on that, see their ledger, see their budgets kind of thing, and see what's happening with this money, and maybe get them to start contributing to some of these kind of.
Kathleen can answer that, but I just mentioned it may not let you.
Right,
Anyways.
yeah.
So currently, with a signed lease, part of the lease is they must provide monthly statements. We get monthly statements from Maynard, we get it from Maitland, and we get it from Roebuck. We get no monthly statement, sorry,
No.
no, I made a mistake,
Yeah,
North
North
Augusta.
Augusta, no.
North Augusta, I'm sorry. Roebuck, we get nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. And the same for Donville. We get nothing from them. We don't have a lease with Roebuck currently. And I'm waiting for the signed lease to come back from Donville. Once we have those, and we don't even have a lease with North Augusta, but they still provide it.
Yeah.
But once we have those leases signed, then we're able to say, this is part of the agreement. Now you need to provide it.
Yeah.
But right now, we don't have anything. No,
Right. No,
no.
I agree.
And
So what's the time frame when the lease is to be signed? It's different for each one, right?
Yeah, so we've got, so Marcus completed, Maynard's completed, Donville we expect any time. Roebuck, we have the issue with the roebuck and them getting legal representation. And then, we have to have a different one with North Augusta because
Yeah.
they're a committee of council,
Yes.
right? The other ones have their own separate business registration numbers, so, North Augusta is the only one that's designated as a committee of
And
council.
Donville is too.
Correct, if they get rid of their business number.
Then
Yes,
there'll be a committee of council.
Yeah, we'll have to change that, Lee.
Yep.
And Donville is a committee of council also, so
Yeah.
we'll have three that will have to sign new leases.
So I can jump back to summer camp. I assume everybody looks at the agreement, what we talked about.
Yeah.
So I have a mover first, by Deputy Mayor Wyans, seconder.
Either myself or Tammy, pick one.
Secondly, be it resolved, the council increases the fees for 2025 summer day camp to $200 a week for Augusta residents, $250 a week for non-residents, effective 14th February 2025. Discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Okay. Thank you. Okay, so recreation, still on there?
we're done that. I would probably suggest that lunch is here. We can take a break. Put some fuel into our bodies and, the last kind of little bit of the operational stuff won't take that long. And then we can kind of go into our capital, if that works for council.
Yeah.
Okay, take a break.
It's gonna be hard to come back.
Got some food through Teams.
Keep rubbing it in, eh? Keep rubbing it in. So how long do you want to take, Mayor, just so that Michelle knows, half
5
hour?
minutes?
Say, time change anyway, 20 minutes times, we still eat and work at the same time.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's all in the fridge.
Yep. Okay, about 20 minutes or so, Michelle?
Sure.
Okay, 1:15.
Snapchat.
You're like,
You got it.
all right, so the next line was library. We already discussed that one. So if we go to the next page, planning. Nothing changes as much as planning. There's some cost in there for a consulting fee. That's there in case we go to the LPAT, if we're ever taken there from a zoning perspective. So we keep the funds in there in case we need it. There's some advertising costs in there that we reduced from budget of last year. And then there's conference dues, which are for Melissa and plus Barb, who's our part-time planner as well too. So there are certain things that they have to go to get their hours or points for their licensing. And that's about it. Any questions on planning? It's pretty late, so. Okay. And the last one is economic development. So a few things to just note to council. Under the professional services is the 45,000 plus HST that we're doing the feasibility study for the Blue Church Road on and off ramp. Plus there's some additional fees in there for some of the initiatives that the Economic Development Tourism Committee are looking at doing with the map and all that kind of stuff like that. Under the miscellaneous, that is a lot to do with our getting swag and stuff for our trade shows, for staff, all that kind of stuff like that. Mayor's breakfast and business of the year, I've increased that slightly a little bit, just with looking at new caterers and stuff like that. There'll be an increased cost of that. And then the economic development projects core includes the corridor, which there was a 4% increase from 2024 to 2025. There is the river route of the 30,000, and then there's a new cost of 25,000 this year, which is the operating expense contribution to the town of Prescott, similar to what we kind of do right now with Edwardsburg Cardinal. So, so other than that, if you look budget to budget, we're up about $15,000 year over year. So.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Did we get any updates on the river route?
So there will be a report coming back to council on the river routes, probably at the next council meeting. Because I believe every year in March, we have to renew our contract. So looking for some numbers right now. The other thing that will be coming back to is as part of our agreement, the current bus that we're utilizing right now is coming to its end of life. So we're looking for some funding to cover the cost of a new bus. That will be shared between the three municipalities, but our portion, if there's any portion, there's already reserves set up through Prescott. We would have enough to cover all that, so.
So you said you have a report?
There will be a
So you
report
looked
coming.
at it? Is there?
Yeah, there's not the numbers. There's not the numbers that I want. I want to see what the numbers are in comparison to Augusta, Prescott, and all that stuff. So I'm waiting on that. So I'll have that hopefully for the next council meeting for council, but yeah.
Did we look at increasing the mayor's breakfast to 25?
Increasing it to, sorry?
It's already 25 from 20. It's right now it's 20, right?
Plate.
plate.
Per plate. Oh, okay.
Oh, looks like one.
Okay. Oh, you mean the revenue,
Yeah, you mentioned the mayor's, you're spending, so should we look at revenue neutral or?
That's certainly up to council. I think we anticipate we always get about 80 people. Right? Probably those 80. There's some that they don't get charged anything, like your guest speaker and all that kind of stuff like that. So it's certainly something the council wants. I think we've got it in the revenue section.
$750.
$750 is what we're looking at bringing in revenue. So it's certainly up to council what they want to do. I think the advertising's already out though for $20.
Yeah,
right
there
now.
you Yeah, tickets are in there.
Yeah, so that's certainly council's call.
Surcharge.
Yeah.
That's,
Very
If you
minuscule.
want your I can see if you want to get called first.
there you go.
it's definitely something to look at for next year. I think next year we should definitely look at.
Yeah, I think we should be looking at all programs like that.
No,
Well,
Close to, not necessarily right on.
Well, I think maybe going with the new caterer that we had this year is, let's see how the caterer does, see what the people's comments are or something like that, and then we can look at, you know, I don't think people mind paying for a good meal, if they're gonna get something good, right? So,
I mean, when you look at what we pay for the chamber events and
yeah,
I think you get more out of ours sometimes.
that's exactly right.
There's been mixed reviews in the past.
Yeah, or Steve Clark.
Mayor's breakfast.
Yeah, okay.
Live.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, so something definitely we can look at, next year and we'll bring that back to the, Economic Development Committee to review that kind of efforts. Yeah, other than that, there's not really much in the economic development unless council wants anything added or deleted or. Okay, so there's nothing more on that. What we're gonna do then is go through the capital. Right? Capital will go kind of line by line and every department will. We'll talk briefly about it and then we'll look for some direction for council, so. First up, I guess, is for me, you wanna do it? Go ahead.
So the first up is admin. We have, our land purchase mortgage repayment of $168,170. That's a non-negotiable there. We have included $25,000 for the generator here at the township office. The last time it was serviced, the technician said that we are at risk of it being tagged out. It's at the end of its useful life. That is being proposed to be financed through reserves. We have also included $7,500 for our folding machine that we use at tax time and for the quarterly bills. The one we have, we purchased used a number of years ago. And again, the one we have is at the end of its useful life. That will also be financed out of reserves. Up next, there's still discussion of renovating the front entranceway to include the security doors. The double set of doors that was originally planned to happen last year with our renovation budget for the whole office, but we've discussed that the security doors are an important part. I'm hoping to keep that. And then I believe it was Councillor Pape who mentioned audio video upgrades for this room. He wanted to see that in the budget. So all of those capital projects proposed for admin are to be financed out of reserves, except for the land purchase, the mortgage payment that'll hit the tax rate.
So the only thing I'll add to Ann is the generator, as she mentioned, is at its kind of end of life. Our fire chief has put in an application under the Community Emergency Preparedness Grant, where we did submit an application for the generator. So if we do hear something back that we get the funding for that, then the $25,000 will remain in our reserve. But one way or another, it looks like we have to have something done this year for this office. And this office is one of our CMMC areas, right?
It's our main.
It's our main one, right? And then the council, the other thing too is the security entrance. So last year, we had been looking at doing renovations here. Due to the fact that we were coming in with such a high budget this year, from a staff perspective, we looked at reallocating those funds to maybe more of a priority. Priority being is that at least get the security doors done. The office renovations could be done at a later date once we have more funds. And then we looked at moving some of the money around to the audio video upgrades for here. If council wants to remain, transparent and engage our residents, having a better experience that they're seeing online. And with the introduction of eScribe, would probably go hand in hand for that. So, but those are all coming out of our COVID and modernization funding, which will hopefully wrap up all that funding that was given to us, 4 years ago. So
explain the audio and video to us?
Yeah, so audio video would include, mics for council, so they would have your own mic. So that when you're communicating with people online and in this room, it's clear. We have to remember too, right, from an accessibility standpoint, if you've got people sitting in the audience that have a hard time hearing, we need to make sure that we're accommodating them for that kind of stuff. Staff would then have, I think, mics around that we would then be able to. So basically, it's everything that's coming in and out, and that's on our teams and everything would be more clear, look more professional, all that stuff. But that's coming from our modernization fund that we have. So is there anything else, Councillor Cape, that?
Yeah, it's, an Ottawa-based company that actually I met at AMO last year that we've been working with on this. And they're directly linked with East Drive, which was already on Shannon's radar, so it really worked out well.
So we're just getting mics,
And new cameras. Or camera, I think we're doing a single camera, right?
so it gets rid of the owl,
Yes.
and what about TVs?
TVs, I believe for the time being, they said the TVs right now are still good. Leave the TVs, and then when it comes time to replace the TVs, then we look at, something different.
No, I'm just thinking.
So,
Yeah.
But you could always have a conversation with either Carl or Summer from the conservation authorities, because that's what we have in the boardrooms. Everybody has their own individual mic.
Yeah.
And, they keep reminding us, use the mic, because people online can't hear if you don't use the mic.
Exactly, right. And this would be kind of the, how we went about it is kind of the base price and we can add on to it in future years
Right.
if we need to. So it's not like you do this and then we can't do anything else. We can continue to add as we see the need, through our meetings and everything.
and they came right to the office, and they, just once Stephen came down, or was it
Yeah.
twice?
Well, once,
They actually came in and did some audio testing in the office, so
So the mic's gonna have wires?
I'm not sure how the mics are set up.
I don't know if it's that or through,
Maybe wireless.
wireless mic.
Yeah.
Wireless, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they want wires.
Yeah, I think it's all wireless.
They're all wireless.
Yeah.
But that's all coming through the modernization funding, which it's basically the intent of the COVID and modernization was to do that kind of stuff.
I could have a new desk. Because it's out there where it comes from.
Well, if you want to put a new desk in, you can just add to the budget if you like. And that's it for administration, and then I'll throw it over to Rob to go through his fire and stuff quickly again.
Oh, God. Won't be long. Because most of us already bought it.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Truck for bylaw, again, 50-50 split with bylaws, but, 35,000, which already been purchased. PPE coveralls, bunker gear. The majority of that is, for replacement. It's a 10-year legislative replacement. We have to replace it every 10 years. Anything we wear for fires, it's a 10-year replacement. Extrication tools, again, those have been, purchased. Fire loan repayment, not a whole lot I can do with that one. And SCBA straps and tablets, those are two different grants that we have been successful in receiving that cost us nothing. That we will be purchasing some tablets and some replacement, gear for our SCBA's. So that'll cost us nothing. And then bylaw, the rest of the truck.
Okay, nothing on that. We'll have, John, you go through yours.
Do you have a question?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, the only question I had, you mentioned, in North Augusta, I think you said in the daytime, you don't get hardly anybody responding. Are there some members there that hardly respond to anything? Like, I wondered if it's a time that maybe you should have a conversation with some of them. Do you really want to stay on the fire department? Because if we got to spend this much money buying new gear for you and you don't respond,
Yeah.
and then maybe those are the ones that you look at replacing and not replacing them before somebody leaves.
Thank you, through your worship. No, we keep track of what percentage people respond to of responses, what percentage they come to trainings, what percentage they come to everything, because we want everybody to, do their fair share, right? And at this point, it's not that, it's just most people in North Augusta area are working either in Brockville, Prescott, and Ottawa.
Yep.
And they're just not there. It's, we've got a great bunch of firefighters at both stations. It's just, they're working during the day. We're lucky. We have a couple Ottawa firefighters that are in North Augusta, but they're working. They only work like 7 days a month, but if it's one of those days they're working, but it just happened to be the other day, we only got 2. Normally it's maybe 5, but it's still not,
Yeah.
5 is barely enough for us to even do anything, right?
Yeah.
But
We'll go to Public Works.
Roads Transportation Services, so again, I'm pushing double surface treatment with a fog seal for the 3 roads that are in proximity here. 4th Concession Road from Charleville to Hillbrook, Blue Church Road from County Road 26 to Lords Mills, which again, both of those had some patching done last year for anticipation for an overlay. And North Campbell Road from County Road 26 to McIntosh for again, for double surface treatment. $140,000 for our maintenance stone for our 85 kilometers of unpaved roads, drainage improvements, line painting, of course, every year, crack sealing, a dump box for truck number 6 to utilize it for the summer months for culvert installations is the main thing I'm looking at, and patching, asphalt patching. And then on the other page, of course, the Public Works parking lot and Church Street again is in there, but crossed off. They were on my list. Is there any questions?
John, I think I saw it in the more detailed version, but what were the user counts again for those 3 roads?
I believe 300, 100 cars a day. So it did not warrant asphalt, the expensive stuff.
Okay.
And these 3 bases are in decent shape, no distortion, not much potholes. And, and the drainage as well, the positive drainage.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, on the roads that you want to do, there's no way that you can cut back and do 1 kilometer less or 2 kilometers less.
Well, so you can, again, your unit prices are gonna go up.
Yeah.
I would think that this is the best bang for your buck for 3 roads that are in proximity to that's roughly 6 kilometers of road that's getting done for just over $500,000. And they are, 2 of them were on a road need study. And of course, again, this one, North Campbell Road, kind of blew up this past spring, summer due to the area that's in the shade. Surface treatment will pluck into shade quickly. If it does not have upkeep of preservation every 5 to 7 years at the most.
Yeah.
The one item on there is the waste management with the new cell, $150,000. So we do have that coming from our working reserve. I think part from working reserve and the other part from the modernization funding to utilize that. So that will clear out the modernization funding, but at least make us hopefully compliant with the MECP.
Me?
Okay. Recreation?
Fire inspection repairs at Roebuck, $35,000. CCRF overages, unfortunately, we had to take the hit for that for mismanagement. Then the remainder are the Maitland Recreation. I put 15,000 in there to do the ramp and finish off the accessibility, but we're looking for a grant there. Cedar Park, I was looking to put a cement pad in there instead of using a tarp every year. Maynard Recreation was 10,000 for any of the requirements. There's some work still that needs to be done on the pickleball court. So I was looking to put that in. North Augusta Recreation, I was looking for repointing, just some maintenance on that building because we know that it's a very, very old building and needs attention. Donville, 10, I put in there. The accessibility kayak dock was 120. The dog park at Kemp Park, 85,000, and memorials and commemorations, 10,000, which I'm hopefully going to get through the grant that we're applying for.
And then the library was the East Trough replacement. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, for the recreation, for that CCRF, $100,000 that we gotta pay back, is that a minimum? Or is there a set schedule that we have to follow?
No, that was,
Like, if that's just something we.
that's something that we came up with to kind of keep, and I believe it's coming out of working capital, the 100,000. So that's not even a hit to the tax rate this year, but next year it'll have to be a hit to the tax rate, so.
Okay.
No, but-
No?
It is a hit to the tax rate.
Okay, it is a hit to the tax rate, so,
Tax rate,
yeah, so we can pay whatever we want back.
is that
It's
just
just,
charging us interest?
no, it's kind of just an internal bookkeeping thing, so we have it set as a liability, but we've got to pay that back, right? So,
All of the bills have been paid.
yes,
But we did not fund this in 2023, so it has to hit the tax rate.
Yeah.
Because it never did hit the tax rate.
Okay. So we can,
All the bills are paid.
so we could lower that amount for this year if we wanted, it just take longer to pay it back.
yeah, and your auditors would probably put more stress on you to say, pay it back sooner than later.
Well, like, a year we got money.
Because they're gonna say that it should have been budgeted in 2021 when you got the funds.
Should, yeah.
Yep.
So,
So everything on the capital here for recreation was on top of the 25,000.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
wow,
That is the result
yeah.
of lack of attention over the years to infrastructure. It's a direct relationship.
The only other question I had, Kathleen, that's on that, for the fire inspection repairs for robot for 35,000. Is that something that has to be done right away, Rob, I guess, or before they can do any more banquets, or? Like, is that something that we could say, like, you guys get your acting gear, better either figure out what you're doing with this, lease, if you're signing it or not, or otherwise, we can hold off on this, but you can't have an event until that's done. I don't know what the timeline on that is.
There's three, your worship. There is no timeline, but they're in violation of the Terra Fire Code. The Terra Fire Code type act it is, it's either you're in violation or you're not in violation.
Yeah.
It's not normally for something like this, but the amount of work that needs to be done, I would normally give 90 days. Right, for it to be done. Like I didn't even do an order on this. Normally I would have done an order format, but because it's our building, I simply just sent her an email saying after we did the inspection together, this needs to be done. And, as far as, not being able to hold, events and stuff like that, that's something we would have to discuss. Like I said, technically, they're in violation of Terra Fire Code, or the
Yeah,
building
yeah.
is in violation of Terra Fire Code. If a fire was to happen, now that we've been notified that there is something in violation, there's a lot of liability there,
Well, that's right.
right?
So really, we shouldn't have an event there until this is done. To be,
No, because again, you can't be expected to do something overnight. You know what I mean? So if I said you had to put new fire doors throughout this building, I wouldn't say you need to have it done today or you can't use it. Again, I would give them 90 days. Sometimes there's been some things that I've inspected that I've given longer. Right, if they've got a whole lot of things, there's a property right now that Shannon's familiar with, that, as long as I see some work being done.
Yeah.
Right, because they've got hundreds of thousands of dollars to do, I've pushed it out a little bit, right, but I've prioritized things for them and stuff. There's really only one thing to be done here, well, there's two, and the other one I don't know whether they want to do or not.
yeah. Well, I think you had mentioned this before, that if they did the one, they could have a certain number of people. If they did the other one, they could have more.
Yes,
So we're not gonna go above and beyond.
no,
They should pay the difference.
yes,
Like this one here. But I mean, the only thing I don't understand in that, Rob, is if you say you give them 90 days, but there's an incident next week, we're liable.
I guess
Yeah.
yes, there could be, but it's just like I said, it's just like if I go and inspect, whatever, I'm trying to think of South Mechanical, right?
Yeah.
Right, it's quite normal for all fire services to give them a reasonable time. And the other thing is, for example, I'm going through, the Fire Safety Commission right now for a property on Highway 2, a rather large property. The fire marshal's office has given them a year.
Yeah.
Right, to comply because of how large and how
Yeah.
expensive the fix is. So is there some liability, Deputy Mayor? I'm not gonna say no. Yeah, there probably is. But, there is quite common practice to extend it. Even the fire marshal's office does it.
Yeah, when the fire marshal office gave, say, a company a year to do it, the township wouldn't be liable. But this building is ours, we are liable. I would think.
So I think the one thing is us doing nothing, we're probably more liable.
Right, yeah.
The fact that it's in the budget, it probably, if something was to happen, say a month from now, and council then got back to the council, said no to this budget item, I think we'd be more liable. So now that we are notified of it, we've got it in the budget. And to me, I think if anything, God forbid, did happen, we can say, yeah, we identified it, it was being done this year, all that stuff, yeah.
I think as long as we have a reasonable plan.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so that's, anything else on capital? Okay, so now we'll go to reserve and reserve funds. So I don't know how you want us to go through this, Mayor, if you want us to go kind of line by line of each reserve fund. Or is there just specific questions you want on this? Currently, right now, we're showing if everything was to stay status quo, we'd be about a little over $2 million left in our reserve, which would put us about, I think, 25 or 26% to our operating expenses.
So is there any area of our reserves that were not like parkland? Just take that for example.
Mhm.
Have we spent any money on parkland in the last, say, 4 or 5 years? And are we expected to spend any? Should that reserve can only be used for parkland? Should it be in something in a high interest investment or something?
Yeah, so certainly Parkland under the Planning Act is required to be used for parkland only. And we haven't used much of it because over the last 2 or 3 years, we've got all brand new parks, right? So as parks become older and there's replacements that's required, that's when you can draw from your parkland to do those type of
So we look at, say, we should be good for 5 years. So we can invest that money in something for a longer period of time.
yeah, you certainly could invest it. The only thing I caution is you'd want to keep it in an investment that's not longer than.
Something liquid.
Yeah, because if you need to act on it, then it's
That's right.
there, right?
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
Yep. But the problem is, we did look at it before, Mark and I did, from an investment perspective, and
Amount a year.
yeah, the rates were not great on an investment. But now, the fact that the bank rates have gone down, there might be, GICs that are available for 6 months or something like that, but certainly something we can look into.
Yeah, well, there are investments with their own banks.
Yep.
That you can lock it in for 14, like I do some with mine with
Yep.
14 months.
Yep.
And you can take it out at any time, but you lose your interest.
That's exactly right.
That's the only penalty.
Yep.
You have any of those investments to share, Adrian?
Got it actually with TD Bank. Not right.
Yeah, and I think, the one thing I know we've talked about before is, the plan is to bring back a reserve
Yes.
and reserve fund policy that basically spells out every reserve, what their function is, whether it's a discretionary reserve or an obligatory reserve. So the parkland is obligatory because we can only spend it
Yeah.
one way.
Yeah.
And then in there, we'll also have kind of where we think the maximum and minimum should be for each reserve. So that's planning on coming back to council soon too, and that will give you kind of a better roadmap of where we need to go, but if I was looking at any reserve right now, to me, the one that kind of worries me a little bit is our working capital, which is at 651,000, and that's pretty much a reserve that we can use for anything if, God forbid, anything happens, so
Yeah.
that's quite low, but the hopes is that over the next few years, we can increase that. We're anticipating a slight surplus for 2024. If that's the case, then that money will go into working capital as well, so. Yeah, so I said, we have some challenges for sure, but I think,
I think some of the reserves and working with our asset management, they'd be a lot more easier to navigate for us as council if it was a reserve for equipment. And whether, it doesn't matter what equipment, whether it's for fire or for
Yep.
public works or for the, the car here or whatever.
Yep.
And then there's one reserved for buildings, and that'd be all buildings.
Yep.
Like, and that would include all the rec, and you don't have all these separate areas.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yep.
The KISS program.
Keep us in. Anything else on reserves?
I guess the only other one is what can we cut, putting into reserves this year?
I think the one thing I will caution, if you reduce your reserve contribution, you will now be under the 25%.
Okay, but we're not taking as much out.
You're not putting as much in though.
We're putting in less than we're taking out.
Well, if you don't want to do the contributions to your reserves for the asset management or the fire, then you're not putting as much back in, so that number's gonna be lower.
Anything else to add reserves, anyone?
Then if not, the last item was grants and donations, which we've already went through council on kind of where the grants and donations are at. And as I said, we can bring back we can bring back a report on if council is comfortable with maintaining the 6,000 on what we can fund that 6,000 with and for what organization, so.
That's fine.
Yeah, he's going to get it.
Okay.
Stand by. Got a whiteboard.
So does it need help?
Yes.
Props. I was gonna bring props.
Put in the budget and use ceramic floor.
So with what John's taking out of the budget, what Kathleen's taking out, where are we sitting right now? We're not still fitting that.
You gotta get it for Michelle.
So
Kind of see it.
I had to add 10,000 to the library because my numbers were an estimate. Freezing your salary for council saves $2,700. Reducing the two fire reserves to this, or the fire reserve and the asset management reserve to the same amounts as 2024. And then increasing camp revenue, it has made a small difference. We're down to 10.41 with just those 5 changes.
Which I don't recommend that you reduce your reserves.
Because if you do reduce your reserves, our reserves balances are now 1.9 million.
Which is about 24%.
That's all under.
And we are provincially not provincially regulated, but required, and they would contact us if it gets below 25% with how we're gonna mitigate those reserve balances, so.
Did this quickly for, I don't know, Michelle can see it. Hopefully she can. I did this quickly for unknown, because so going into 2025, we have the police, we were saved by money coming down through the province. There's no word saying it's not gonna happen. Leeds and Thousand Islands basically put money in one side for that. Maybe something we should do to that. Certainly is not gonna up the tax rate, but that's an unknown. So chances of provincial government stepping up again? I don't think so, because there's election this year and I don't think they'll come forward. Next, you have your grant at Maynard. Again, just rough figures. If we get that grant, then we're looking at 300,000. To start paying back. It's death. Our company, they owe us 385,000. I know the CAO is working on it. Chances are he'll probably get it, but it's unknown. It's debt right now. CCRF, and I think he said about 380 left on it or something like that. That's debt. Okay? And a snowplow. So all those things going in 2025, we're not gonna pay them off in 2025. And they're gonna be here next year at this time, when council's sitting around too. So. Anyway, I just wanted you guys aware of that. It's not all rosy. Now, what can we do? User fees. We talked about bag tags, or something like that. But user fees, we definitely gotta start looking at. Burn permits, jacking that up, so $10, whatever, every bit helps. And. What did I?
Reserve minimum.
Reserve minimum.
Yeah.
Setting a minimum standard, like Shannon mentioned a couple of minutes ago. Either it's 25% of your reserve or, 35% of your reserve, you don't touch it. No matter how many trucks are left, But, there's the thoughts, but this is council. I want you to think about this. So whatever we do today, you can say, oh, let's get it out, let's make it good. That's not going away. And again, I don't know. So one, we gotta sell land, what land we have, but that's not gonna happen. That may happen in 2026. And to build homes. And now we're hitting, the provincial government tells us to build homes quickly. We have the land, we have developers, we can't build them because of planning. I don't know what's screwed up. So anyway, it's really frustrating. So anyway, I just wanted you to see
You
that.
forgot something on there, Jeff.
What?
$3 million for our grant for the water and sewer.
Yes, you're absolutely right. It's another $3 million for the Husop grant. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Spelled anyway.
HEWSF.
There you go. Now, I don't think councils in the past ever had these problems. In fact, I know they didn't. So, that's the big picture.
I know what councils in the past did, and you probably do too, you've been on it long enough. When I first got on council 8-10 years ago, what do you want tax rate at? And then we just cut and bunch of stuff around it, not thinking of the consequences. Just kept taking money out of reserves to balance what the mayor at that time wanted.
Yep.
And, so, I mean, yeah, those days are gone. But at the same time, I think we have to be responsible to our citizens, and there are quite a few that live on social assistance and whatever. They own their own house. They can't lose their house, but they can't have a big increase. And, I had that same conversation with some of them when we built our fire hall. They said, we can't afford that. And I said, yeah, but it's gonna lower your fire insurance. And they said, Mr. Winans, we can't afford fire insurance. So I don't care what fire insurance is, we don't have that.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be in the same boat with some of them, looking at a 10 or 12% tax increase.
Yeah. But they're the ones that are probably the ones who will complain would be the ones who.
They won't complain, they'll bite the bullet, but I mean, that's the ones that.
And our staff is willing to make, arrangements with them. All they have to do is come in, can't afford it, I want to pay, can I do this, do this? And the staff will work with you.
Yeah, the staff can't say, oh, no, you don't pay 20% or 10% of that because, they still gotta pay their bill, but they can have time to pay it.
Yeah, I think with the pre-authorized payment plan that we now have, makes it easier for people to pay, 'cause it's divided between, 12 months, those types of things. And certainly I don't disagree that, this impacts all the residents, but I think, the reality is either if you don't do it this year, it's gonna come back next year, it's gonna come back the year after, it's gonna keep coming back to you and it could be coming back worse.
But last year we went 7, the highest ever, okay?
Yeah.
Didn't have too much feedback, we go another high one.
Yeah.
What you're gonna get next year, you're gonna get people to run on, I'll cut the tax. And yeah, we won't get elected, big deal. We'll throw our hands away, but that's the worst thing for the township. You'll get people that only wanna cut.
Yep,
And, you know, and then it'll go through the office, you guys won't be happy, and people, that's what's happened in other townships.
Right.
When you get counselors that all they wanna do is cut.
Yep. And then I think the reality is though too is, and I've seen it in my career, is that you get people that wanna run on a certain, topic, item, cut the tags. When they actually come in and look at the reality of the numbers, they find it very difficult then, right? I think, you know, to me, some of the challenges with councils, maybe in the past, is that they've looked at their election term and their election term only. We need to look at the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years and where we see it. And to the mayor's point, you know, we've got to sell land. I think we're getting to that point. It's not gonna happen overnight, but as we do start selling land, we do start building houses, then you'll start seeing our tax base grow. You'll start seeing building permits come through,
Yeah.
and that will help us as well.
Yeah.
Right?
So.
I mean, another thing, kind of on that point, also the councils of the past didn't have that. And by that, I mean the live streaming, the accountability that we have at every meeting is that it's no longer this closed session, even though the door's open. You know, oh, you do everything behind closed doors. Well, no, because we cut the video to back it up, right? So we're being as transparent as we possibly can. I really don't think there's a more transparent way about everything that we're doing. Everything here is available to the public to see. The discussions are public. So, I mean, you want to come in and say, yeah, I mean, everybody would love to have a 0% tax increase when the roads start to crumble and houses start burning down because the fire trucks are breaking down on the way to a call. You know, people are gonna start to see. I mean, I agree. You know, we need to make concessions wherever we can, but we cannot let it affect the level of service, not just for now, but also going forward. But you know, big picture, like Shannon mentioned, we need to look at the big picture and make sure that we're not just thinking next year, the year after that. We need to think 5, 10 years down the road. So it's, and also we still don't know what's coming next month, tariff-wise. There's so many different things that are gonna impact this township going forward that I hate to say, I don't think we've seen the worst of it yet.
I have a tendency to agree with you.
Yeah, just a little bit of reserves real quick, just an example. Years and years, for years and years, the fire department always put $100,000 away for buildings, $100,000 away for trucks. And in 2010, we did the renovation and the addition at Station 2 in North Augusta in 2010. I forget, it was $600,000 or something like that, and a good portion of it was paid by grants. Anyway, the decision was made then by council of the day that they were not going to put away that $100,000 for building that year or the following year, whichever it was, because they needed to give taxpayers a break. Problem was, we explained to council, if you take the $100,000 away, we're never gonna get it back, right? And we didn't. We asked for it multiple times. We didn't. And then when we went to build Station 1, one of the biggest concerns residents brought up was, well, we don't want to borrow. Why don't we have reserves? Well, a decision made 14 years ago or 20 years ago, whatever it was, right? 15 years ago, directly, you know, made that an issue. You know, and I just want to remind council, that's a perfect example of why, you know, putting money in reserves is so important, because you don't know how long in the future it's gonna affect.
What's our debt ceiling, Shannon? What do you think it'd be?
So we're allowed to take up to about $1.2 million in debt, as in, that's our debt payments we can make up to in a year. We're currently at about 400,000, I think, roughly, so we've got about $800,000 in debt payments we can make.
That's a percentage of.
Percentage of your operating budget and it looks at a few different factors in your FR. So we do have good borrowing capacity. But my worry is in that last item is the $3 million or so that we're gonna have to borrow.
That's what I'm agreeing.
Right? Now, we will collect connection fees and everything as part of it, but you know, it might take us a little bit of time to get there, right? So that would be more of a 20-year loan, probably the 3 million over the span of it. But right now, if we borrowed, 2.1 million for 20 years through the Royal Bank, and our debt payments are 168,000. So even if we borrowed 3, if our debt payments were 300,000, that still gives us $500,000 that we can borrow in debt. But we don't want to be to that point where we limit ourselves so that if something disastrous happens, we can't borrow any money. And the other thing I'll say too is, we look at the new loan this year for our land, $168,000 in the budget for that. If we can sell these lands and we can get the money in next year, that debt then is paid off. You've got that $168,000 that's already in the taxes that you can reallocate somewhere else, whether it's to increasing your reserves or doing something different, right? Because to Rob's point, once you get something in the budget, the last thing you want to do is take it out because it's harder to get it back in. It's already on the tax roll.
So what we talked about today, what was our figure without touching reserves?
Without touching reserves before any changes you made today?
No. The changes you made, the changes.
Okay.
So you,
Without touching the reserve?
do you want to go through the items that we've changed from today? Without the reserves.
Without the reserves.
But if
So-
we leave reserves alone, but if we increase reserves, but if we leave reserves alone, that's what, Ann had worked out already.
So on the revenue side, with changing the cost for the camp, we're adding approximately $25,800 to the revenue. And then on the expense side, I had to add 10,000 for the library. We reduced the salaries for council by 2720 by freezing the CPI increase. So those 3 changes drops your tax rate down to 11.29.
I had 20,000 for the library. No?
That was 10.
Just tap.
It was 10 because the estimates that they have on their sheet for salaries it's
Okay.
incorrect.
Yeah, so we're down to 11.29, which would be a hit on an average assessment of 203,000 would be 160.
162.82.
Yeah, but what's our average, you say, what's our average assessment?
203.
That's the average?
Yeah, that's the average. Yeah. Yeah. So if you're over that, then it's gonna be more than that. If you're under that, it's gonna be less than that. But that basically takes everything that's in the budget, minus the CPI adjustment, and then the library changes and the camp changes. But the reserves would be still what was,
But if we didn't increase reserves, it dropped by another 1%.
if you wanted to remove the reserves,
No, not remove, just we didn't increase it from 140 to 173, and then there's another one comes in.
you'd
Just
probably,
leave the reserves the same as last year.
it'd be close to about maybe 0.75% you drop it.
So we took 65 out of the recreation buildings.
Not yet.
Oh, well, yeah, gonna take that in, that's 1% right there.
Well, I'm gonna caution this council on taking that money out. Is that if you look historically, the last 2 years, our costs have been over that. And
Yeah.
I'll warn you right now, is that by reducing it right now, we'll be back, I guarantee you, in 4 or 5 months, that we're over that budget.
But can you break it down then? Tell us what was CCRF and what wasn't that is. Because that's included all the.
The CCRF stuff is all in that $380,000.
Yeah.
Everything that you have in that operating budget is just all your monthly stuff. Grass cutting, winter plow, pest control, insurance, everything.
No, because, well, not an argument, I'm just saying let's go to it. Because,
So I don't think that's it.
You said the CCRF, all the bills are paid.
Yeah.
So that's what we owe ourselves,
Yes.
Yes.
so we can pay ourselves back at a lower rate.
Well, that's what we're doing. We're putting $100,000.
We could reduce that to 50. For this year, we'll sell land, we got more money, we could increase it, 'cause it's only internal, right? We're not paying interest on it, we've already paid the bills, so it's just a line item.
It's a line item, but your auditors will probably,
Right.
will probably say to you is that you need to balance your books, because in
Yeah.
fact, we're not balanced.
So we'll eventually.
right?
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yes, sir.
Did take that out, the recreation stuff, so I just added it back in, 12.02
Okay.
without changing the rec numbers.
so it's 12.02 right now, but if council decreases the recreation by 65,000, it goes to 11.29.
2.9.
But getting back to you said, can you take out the CCRF, what we spent on, like, if we didn't have to do anything for CCRF.
We're
That's
not,
not in that 25,000.
we're not doing that.
That's why I know that. But you're basing your budget on last year, which consisted of CCRF stuff.
No, that went into a separate account.
No.
Everything that was paid through the CCRF went into a liability account.
So this was just mishandles.
This is just monthly stuff. That's all it is.
Yes.
Snow plowing, everything.
Operating expenses of each of the facilities.
We took over all of their operating expenses.
Yeah.
We didn't pay them all before in previous years, but now we're paying every bill related to the operating expenses.
Right. Whereas the 380 is our portion of the CCRF plus any overages that went through. Maynard was over on theirs, Merck was over on theirs, but Merck paid us a portion back. So that is the net cost of our contribution plus overruns of the 380,000.
How can they do over? I'm trying to understand this.
Yeah, that's
How can
different.
they be over?
How come we're?
You have a budget, follow.
But what happened was is you
If you
had,
can't, then,
you had recreation groups that were handling it and
yeah, I know that.
went over.
I know that.
Problem is, they don't have the pockets to pay for it. Now, Merck was able to pay us $20,000 back.
Yeah.
But Maynard doesn't have the ability to pay any money back because they've got no revenue coming.
But yeah, that was last year.
Right,
This year, we have a person looking after it, that's monitoring the accounts, should be every month.
right, but the 25,000 is just your general operating to get you through the year of hydro, heat, propane, grass cutting, snow plowing, all that stuff. It's got nothing to do with the CCRF stuff.
No, but
I don't know, I may not, but I think we're, you know,
not part of that, but Kathleen said we need that money in there in case something has to be repaired. This is just operating expenses, 25,000 to run North Augusta,
Yeah.
just for the grass and
Yes.
the
Yes.
hydro.
I've got a breakdown for the whole year, if you'd like to take a look at the costs.
yeah, sure,
Okay.
give us one. You know,
I'll
just
give
one
you,
to,
I'll give you, Maitland. Now, you will notice in there that there are the odd figure for a storage container, which we had to rent for, that's a one-off. But it's by the overages though, 25,000 is what it's going to cost.
Because we budget 15 and we use the 15 by July, we're not turning the lights off and closing the door for the rest of the year. We gotta continue keeping those lights on and keeping it open, right? So the reality is that 2 years ago, recreation was buried under public works and we weren't able to get a good handle on what the true cost was. Last year, I think gave us that more of a snapshot of what it costs. Now, this year, if we put $25,000 in and we don't spend as much, then next year we'll look at bringing it down. Maybe we've got a good handle on it now, right? But I'd rather give a little bit more than not enough, and we're coming back 4 months down the road, and now we're looking at a deficit overall. I'd rather look at a surplus instead.
John, buy a honey bucket. A lot of the costs are on the honey bucket right here. Times 5 different establishments, buy a honey bucket.
That's a bucket truck, you mean?
No,
What was a honey bucket?
Oh, but what?
You know what that is?
Supposed to say the honey pot.
oh, save money, we do, right? Yes, they're all costs for operation.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know, I'm not gonna worry about it.
Pump outs, yeah, pump outs are crazy.
Well, the pump outs are due, sorry, through your worship. The pump outs are due to the high volume with the summer day camp too, don't forget. You know, there's a lot of pump out. It's only a holding tank.
So then the summer day camp, the expenses aren't all there then. Did you include these expenses in the summer date?
No, I put them under Mark
Yeah.
because
Well-
they're giving them to us.
You have to have soccer and everything else.
Yeah,
So-
Like, it wouldn't be,
It's not just, so it's really hard to define it.
it's
Mayor's
everything that
breakfast.
goes on there. The rentals.
Especially if it's bad food. So right now, we're at 12.02%. If we maintain what's in there for recreation, so we've increased the camp revenue fees, we've added the 10,000 for the library, and we reduced the council's CPI adjustment. You'd be at 12.02%.
So the truck, the snowplow. So I know we still have that in the books. It's no use to us this year. Well, I say this winter, I should say. So the only alternative I see that makes sense is to buy a new truck. But as Shannon said, the best route to go is try to get a small interest rate. 3 years or something, and then it's, as you build up your reserve for that. I don't.
I would say explore the Royal Bank option compared to Infrastructure Ontario.
Well, you're gonna do that.
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
Infrastructure Ontario, you said you're locked in for 5 years
Yes.
and a good interest rate, but see what the Royal Bank would be.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, now look at that paper there, we should just shut Merck. The cheaper to shut it down. Sell it.
Well,
They can't roll them.
don't work.
Oh,
So I guess the question for council is, I guess 2 questions is for the snowplow. Do you want us to look at some options from a finance perspective and bring them back to council at our next meeting?
Well, I think
Or-
you mentioned the options, I think we can agree on the options. It's where you have to decide where to get the money.
So is council wants to maintain the 5 routes? Yes.
Yeah.
Explain the 5 routes to us.
To explain 5 routes, so we have 5 routes in our township. We have 1 truck and 1 truck only that runs our subdivisions, mostly mainland. And it has a switch plow on it, so it is not useful in gravel roads. So we have 5 trucks that go around to our townships, 4 that run the gravels, of course, and usually that switch plow is a little bit longer because of the, a lot of right-hand turns in the villages. But if we go down to 4, and this happened to me like yesterday, conveniently yesterday, we were down to 4 trucks yesterday. One of my trucks broke down due to a wiper and some filters and everything else. That truck had to come back. Over half my day yesterday, we were fighting 3 trucks, which will probably not get you your level of service that we want for MMS, minimum maintenance standards. I had to call in our usual guy that drives truck 2. I immediately brought him in at 7 o'clock to help with the gravels, anticipation of the big storm. So that was a big plus on the gravel roads to help the Algonquin side of things. I can't really throw it out to Limerick because of, like I said, our grader uses not twice as much fuel, but a fair amount of fuel more. And depending if you want to put more weight on it, the wing and the big plow up front is going to be even more fuel. But yeah, so we use 5 trucks through the township here to meet and exceed our MMS, minimum maintenance standards.
You shared a breakdown a couple weeks ago. When was it that you shared that with the map that showed the 5 routes?
Sorry?
You had a map.
That was
at
in
a council meeting.
That was in his policy, is that
Yeah,
Policies, yes.
your
I think
snow,
that's what Shannon was asking, was what those 5 sections are.
Oh, so the 5 sections again, so I got 1 truck that does from my shop down to Algonquin, does the Knapp subdivision there, and he goes right into Maitland. Another truck would do the area. He would, jump up, the Algonquin, the other side of Algonquin, just that little piece of asphalt that's just due west of the Algonquin Village, the Four Corners. And then he would run up to Bisseltown and the second concession. There's 2 plow routes. One, truck 7 starts in Branch Road and does all that asphalt that way. That's the smaller asphalt route, so that helps with the gravels. Truck number 6 does mostly here, this area, Merwin and stuff. And so mostly, north and south. And then, truck number 8? Truck number 8 does like Lord's Mills, Skankum, Macaulay, and all that stuff. And then eventually we come back and we do our gravels. So it'll be 4 trucks on gravels. And, our switch plow is a little bit longer. Like I said, it's more time consuming in Maitland for sure.
Yep. What's the average difference between 5 trucks and 4 trucks?
Well, we can roughly do our routes probably in 4.5 hours with a 5 router. And you're probably looking at 6.5 at least if we went down to 4. And yesterday we did 2 runs plus an extra high speed at the end of the day. That was 12 hours yesterday with 3.5 trucks.
But then with flowing snow, you don't get it all done.
No, yes. And then if we went down to 4 trucks, you might have more salaries, more overtime. I'm tiring my guys out. And yes, more wheels turning in each vehicle. But your overtime might go up.
Well, your maintenance will go up on each vehicle then.
Sorry?
Your maintenance will go up on each vehicle.
Yes, as the wheels are turning more, yes.
Yes.
So it seems to me like we need to buy a truck to keep up with standards and.
But I'm open, yes.
We finance it. And we can blame Public Works for the high increase. They love
Gone
you.
down the last 3 years.
They love you anyway.
So if that's the way council wants, we'll put together a report, bring it back on some options as far as kind of interest rates. I would probably say if we can get a close enough interest rate to, Infrastructure Ontario, probably is more beneficial to go with RBC, just because you can pay it off sooner, right? If, to the mayor's point, to deputy mayor, if we sell land and stuff like that, then we've got some extra funds and we can pay it off sooner. The only implications I see though is when we go with a loan, we will probably have payments that will start this year, which we do not have in the budget. But we can bring everything back to you and have council look at that at that time.
Okay, so I'll just defer this one.
Well, I think they're approving they're approving the purchase,
The how
Yes, the term.
needs to be determined.
right? Maybe you amend the resolution and that staff, bring back a financing report on options to purchase or something like that, right?
Worship, can I just come back to, it's something under the economic development that I know Tanya brought up, I mentioned it to you, before the meeting too, the whole river route thing.
Mhm.
What is our cost on the river route?
So we all contribute $30,000 every year to the route. Us, Prescott and Eversburg Cardinal. There's a portion that goes into a reserve every year. And then there's the portion which is the operating cost, right? So we all pay our fair share regardless of who's utilizing it the most. And I think from what I'm getting at it, to me, the whole intention of the river route was to provide transportation to people who need to get back and forth to work. And I see it possibly being a benefit when we get our industrial park up and running, that it would be a benefit. And I guess, to me is why we're still partners today.
My big thing on that is, I'm pro-transit. I mean, I think there's definitely value in it, especially I think out here, the fact that we have transit in a rural area is a huge win.
Yep.
My problem with it is we're not getting any data, we're not getting any information. You know, so we're basically giving them a check and it's like the bus could be driving right through Augusta Township and nobody's getting on, nobody's getting off, but yet we're paying our taxpayers are paying $30,000 for a transit system that many are probably not using. Right? I mean, the times aren't the most convenient. You know, I mean, my son looked at it, hey, I can take the bus into town. Oh, no, I can't. Because it's done at 5, right? So, I mean, it's one of those things. Again, I'm pro-transit, but it was something that came up during the election campaign, which was 2 years ago already, 2.5. And, you know, I know you've been asking, I know Steve asked before you to get more detail and more information and, you know, we're just not getting it. And sometimes I always get the impression when people aren't being forthcoming with information, it's because they don't want you to see the information that's there. And that concerns me in the sense that maybe it's just not there. I do agree with the point that you made that, you know, when the time comes that the industrial park is booming again, it'll absolutely be a huge benefit. So right now, that's $30,000.
So the report that I've got from the town of Prescott, which I'll be bringing forward to council, probably next meeting is, so total rides is all we get right now. So I don't get a report on
Right.
like how many were at, you know, the Merc or how many were there, but from 2022, from the inception of this program, we had about 3,800 total rides.
I know.
As of 2024, we've doubled it. We're at 72, 77 total rides. The areas I don't know is, you know, what's our share versus Prescott versus Edwardsburg Cardinal, right? That's what is kind of the piece I'm missing, but there is a part that goes into the reserve. They get money from the gas tax towards the transit as well. So I would say we probably get we're paying a subsidized amount because we're getting money on top of it, right? So, yeah, that's kind of where we're at with that, but I'll be bringing a report back.
The only other
Could-
thing. Oh, go ahead.
Go here.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
And also to that Riverview, I believe earlier, Shannon, you said that they were possibly looking at a new vehicle.
Yes, correct.
So then that's gonna also add.
No, if we end up getting the funding that we're submitting for, our contribution would be funded through the reserve, which the town of Prescott has the reserve. So of our 30,000, a portion of it goes into the reserve. So we would have enough to cover our share as a collective group, so there'd be no tax input or tax increase.
Okay.
The only thing I would caution about jumping out of something like that, we've got a great working relationship with Prescott and Edwardsburg Cardinal, and this would be one thing that would kind of break that relationship a little bit. Because then they would look at other things, so we'll get back at Augusta for this or for that.
Yep.
We're not gonna go into with you when you want something.
No, I think if our intention is to that point, if our intention is not to, continue the relationship, to me would be better off to say, okay, you know, this is our last year and next year we can be part of it and gives them a year to balance it. But I don't disagree with you. I think there's partnerships for a reason and it might not be beneficial for us yet. But in the long run, that's, I think, our hope, right? Is as we get that whole industrial park up and running, that we'll have a lot of people that will.
And I'm sure there are people from, I mean, I've seen people get on the bus in Maitland.
Yeah.
You know, I would just like to know, you know, I mean, OC Transport, I know it's comparing a million population city to Augusta, but, you know, you can have, and I mean, even North Grenville's transit system, they can tell you who got on there. I mean, theirs is on demand, so it's a little different setup. But, you know, I mean, to at least have an idea. I mean, somebody's got to be looking at these numbers. This is what, 3-4 years in now. Somebody's got to be looking at these numbers because it's all part of the thing.
Yeah, and I think the one thing I will take back to the CAO of Prescott is the fact of that under the terms of reference, we are supposed to be meeting 2 or 3 times a year to discuss the operations and everything. That hasn't happened since I've been here. I don't think it happened when Steve was here either. So, you know, those are one of the things that we can take back and say, you know what? My council's had some concerns about this. We need to start meeting frequently so that we can, you know, like to that point is if we've got 4 or 5 spots that aren't meeting what we want, is there other areas within the township that would be more advantageous to move
Right.
to, right? Those are the conversations we need to be having, so.
I mean, transparency goes 2 ways,
Exactly right.
right? So-
Do we have any say in on setting the rates?
Well, to me, it's supposed to be a collective effort, right? And we're supposed to be providing input on where we think the best location is, all that stuff, but I don't disagree. I think it needs to, maybe we need to get as part of our next tri-council meeting is getting the group together again and having a discussion as a collective whole.
I mean, we definitely promote it. I mean, I think we see the page at least monthly, if not
Yeah.
several times a month. Hey, if you thought about taking the river route? Yeah,
Right.
so I mean, we're definitely.
It's everywhere.
promoting it. I mean,
Yeah.
I see it more on our social media than the others.
Yep.
But they may have it easier because, you know, Evansburg Cardinal, they've got the entire town of Cardinal. That's their transit system, right? Whereas within Augusta, you really only
Yeah.
have a small area.
And I will say with some of the industrial connections that we've had discussions with, that is one of the questions that come up is about, you know, where am I gonna get my workers from? And is there any mean of transportation of getting them to and from? And when we say, oh, well, we've got a, you know, river route that does Prescott, they're quite happy with that because in a rural area, you usually don't get that.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's something that we can even look at, you know, again, I mean, it's nice to see that numbers are going up. But looking at North Granville's model, and now the town of Pembroke just implemented the same with our help.
Yeah.
And, you know, looking at that model to see if that model would work for the river too. You know, the more on demand.
Yep.
You know, because you got lower overhead, you're not just running buses for the sake of running buses.
Right.
With nobody on it, right?
Right.
So, but I mean, again, I think that the most important thing from my point anyways, if we're gonna be putting our taxpayer dollars towards this, then we need a seat at the table to at least be part of the discussion around it.
Yep.
And not just be sent a bill every year.
Yep, exactly.
With very little information other than, oh, the numbers went up. We got 2,000 more riders this year, which is great.
Yeah.
It's great news. But, you know, we wanna know as representatives for our residents, how is this benefiting them?
Good point.
So that's my point of view on it. So
I'll take
again,
that-
I'm.
I'll take that back.
I'm
I'll
all
take
for
that back.
transit. But I want to make sure that from Augusta's residents' perspective, we ask the questions when we get that information.
Fair enough.
Okay, I'll handle this resolution. Moved by Councillor Page, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lyons, be resolved the council accepts the information presented at report 2025-024 provides direction to staff on how to proceed with staff's recommendation being to replace truck number 2 with a new 2026 tandem Freightliner snowplow. Council chooses option 2 to purchase a new Freightliner tandem snowplow. And then staff report back on financing options at a future meeting before purchasing. Comments? All question, all in favor? Period. All right, so. I guess, do we have anything else to discuss as far as the tax levy? I think what's gonna happen, so once we have our council meeting, decide what it's gonna be. We will, first of all, put out just a press release stating, why, mostly why the costs went up so drastically. And, we'll send that in the tax envelope with their taxes stated. And then after that, we will do 2 things. We'll send out a quarterly with a little bit of information in it. And I'll also do a mayor's message, video wise. So, all those things have to happen pretty quick, once we pass it. You know, because word's going to be out there. And I just sat down and, the tax rate 2025, and these are the reasons in my little mind, but No growth in industry or residential in township. CCBF or OCIF allocations are not keeping up with the rate of inflation. Asset management plan introduced. Reserves have to be built up to a satisfactory level. Stagnant assessment increase 2016. We haven't had anything since 2016. Donations made to Maple View Lodge, Sherwood Park Manor, and Prescott Family Health Team. Salaries and benefits went up 16%. CPI 2.7%. We did a land purchase from 2024, which will definitely help make a profit, but not right away. New staff positions, bylaw, building inspector and communications. We gotta repay the CCRF loan and vehicles, so those are kind of all the reasons I think my little money went off. So. Does anybody want to say anything, councilors? Okay, sorry.
You're gonna mention in your mayor's report what we did to try to cut the percentage? Cause that's why we did it, right? So certain things, so they know.
I never thought of that. I don't know if it adds to the fire or,
Yeah.
I don't know. We could, so.
We could.
We could say, yeah, I don't know if we have to go in detail, but we could mention the areas in public works, recreation and that, where you.
Yeah.
Cut back, yeah.
Well, cut back and then say the other option that council is looking at to increase revenue was user fees.
Yeah.
And just leave it at that. I wouldn't go into bag tags or nothing, just say user fees.
Yeah, one go at a time.
So just so I understand, so we have direction. So right now, we're at 12.02. Does council want us to do anything else?
11.9. Getting under that 12.
12.02 does not include a payment for a truck.
Right.
Right,
But this does not also include what the counties come on top of this.
that's not included counties.
Only.
So counties are what?
They're 5.1.
So then we're looking at 17% tax increase.
But we're only gonna focus on, like, from our perspective, right,
I don't think it's compounded.
the 12.02% is what the municipal tax increase is. Does council want us to come back with a budget bylaw at the next meeting based on 12.02? Or what other directions do you want to give us to move forward?
I think if you 12.02 and you're gonna say it's $177
166, I think.
or
that's-
166, and then they get their tax bill, not 166, it's two something because the counties and the education.
Oh,
Made a payment. for
Other years when we did our tax increase, that was all included.
well, there'll be. The problem is we don't want to muddy the waters if we say.
Right.
It's 17 or 18%, because we're always gonna focus on the municipal, right?
Yeah.
The counties will do their own media release when it comes to their increase. We do ours separately, but you're right, they're gonna see it both on the same thing, but, that's up to us from a communication perspective to make sure we communicate that out to residents too. Yeah.
As far as the truck goes, depending when you get the loan. So. Yeah, if you put it in for. How much a month would it be?
So I had it down just based on, I did, OSIF. Or sorry, Infrastructure Ontario. I had payments of about $7,700 a month.
John, if you order this truck, when you gotta start paying for it, when they deliver it, which could be 3-4 months from now or 6 months from now, eh? That's when you gotta start paying?
I expect when it gets delivered, I'll be chopper, accounts.
Get an invoice.
Yes. So
So I wouldn't have the funds advanced until the time that we pick it up, like.
Yeah.
We can have the loan, everything ready to go. And then once we get the okay that the vehicle's there, then they can release the funds to us, and then that's when the payments will start. So you're right.
So,
It might not be till June or July that you start making a payment.
yeah,
Heavy trucks.
and again, if we don't put a push on it, probably not gonna get that truck till later in the fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as it's ordered and you got the price set.
Yes, as long as we get it ordered, like I said, so I talked to my guy that I know, and he's got 6 to 8 trucks on the lot right now that are last year, 2026 models that are sitting there that have already been paid for through them.
Yeah.
They're sitting in there for the next person to buy them. So if we want to push it any farther, one of these trucks could be sold. We could pay more for the steel, the tariffs. The Canadian dollar is not very strong, so it could, like originally, $375,000 is truck 7. This one's pretty much the same, minus a little bit of difference in the plow. It went up,
415.
went up to 416, so there's $30,000, $40,000 went up.
Yeah.
And it could go up another 30,000-40,000 with tariffs and everything else too. If,
So you put it in the budget starting April.
Starting.
No, we put it, Ann put it in June, and it went up to 12.77%. What's the average on that?
On 12.77.
Yeah, it's good.
$184.17.
So it goes to $184.17 per average assessment, if we add in 6 months of payments. One direction.
You do that, bring it down like some people do and say, it's only so much a day.
Yeah, we can do that,
How
certainly.
many Jimmy's coffee?
Yeah.
That's right.
It's only,
You go with Starbucks, it's totally different.
it's only a coffee a day.
Yeah.
3 cents a day.
So how does council want us to move forward then? Do you want us to bring the report back for the finance? And then determine that first? And then bring the budget back after to include that, or bring it all back as one? With 6 months of payments in the budget.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best, man.
So we're at 12.77, give or take. It might change a little bit based on the rates that I get from the Royal Bank, and then we'll give you some options and we'll bring everything back then at the next council meeting. We good to bring the budget bylaw back?
Yeah, definitely.
So we'll bring that back on the 24th.
Yeah, so Willow's gonna start doing up a media release and all that too, so.
Yeah.
So we get everybody singing the right story. We're not hiding it, just.
Nope.
Yeah.
And our media release, should we put what we started at?
Well.
Which was
Let's come
well
up
over
with
15. And we're down, we've got a car
I'm
down.
just saying, I
Like that, we
would
just-
forfeit that for my
We
truck.
did our due diligence, we did our work, we cut where we could.
Yes.
If you had all the stuff we cut up, that's.
Yeah, make it.
Yeah, the good news, bad news was good news, could have been like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, hopefully she'll have that ready for you for next meeting.
So our public works manager has presented an olive branch to council to try and get the number down, because he knows the value of the tandem truck. He would be prepared to cut his crack seal by $50,000 to show that he needs his truck more than anything. That would drop us almost down another percent.
Yeah. Well,
Down.
plus, what'd you say, you got made, what would the truck be worth in scrap value, like the plow's worth something, whatever you could throw off of it.
So the truck number 2 that we have.
Yeah.
So truck number 2 was just recently safetied. I'm gonna be taking all the tires and rims off that we put on it. They're earmarked for truck number 9 right now that we know of. Anything else that's in that truck might, like, we don't have any more. That's our last international truck.
Yeah.
So the tires and rims are good to be used, switched around. And, then we're gonna take the, tires off of truck number 9 and put them on the bucket truck because the bucket truck's tires are, so the bucket truck tire with man lift, they're dated, the tires are dated. So the tires on truck 9 we could use that are still within date to put on truck, 13 to 14 is what it is, the bucket truck.
Keep that.
You're gonna keep it on?
So with that $50,000 drop in that crack ceiling, it drops it down to 11.96%. Which includes the 6 months payments for the trucks.
It seems Public Works did a great gesture. What about recreation?
We don't have the budget like Public Works does.
Give a little, even if you each gave, say, 20,000, you know, there you go.
Why go little?
I think we started.
I said a president's.
But we're not asking for a $415,000 truck.
Yeah.
Greedy, ain't I? Greedy.
Shannon, you wanna drop the professional fees?
I can drop the legal fees by 50 and leave our legal fees at 0.
Yeah.
You want yellow lines?
The lawyers might not like that.
No,
No, I don't.
why you put it in there?
So is council good with us reducing that by 50,000, John's crack ceilings? That would then bring it down to 11.96. Yeah.
I'll give that one.
It's not tax rate.
That's great. So piece that in.
You're all welcome.
Yes.
I'm here to,
I'll hear about it later on.
I'm here to be the sheep.
We're all gonna give it a little bucket and we're all gonna get a pounder and you do this road, you do that road.
Yeah, so I'll recap then for Ann then too, so that we can capture everything. So we've amended the revenue for camps, okay? We have added the adjustment to the library of 10. We reduced the CPI for council. We have reduced the $50,000 for crack ceiling. We've added the 6 months in for our payments for the new snowplow. We've maintained our contribution to reserves for asset management and to the fire reserve as presented. And maintain recreation at the $25,000 per building, and we are at 11.96%.
Okay. One question, would we be better off to reduce our payment back to ourselves in CCRF and keep the crack ceiling? Which is gonna save us money in the long run? I mean, you said the CCRF money is just, we gotta play with the auditors on that one.
We can't
We
have it on our
still-
books for years and years.
Adrian, we have to
It's
pay
been
with
on
the
our
auditors,
books.
not you.
Well, you guys, yeah, we
Yeah.
gotta approve it.
Yeah, it's not good to keep it on your books
No.
for.
And this is a 2023 expense.
It's something that was,
Actually,
should have been
2021.
expensed.
And it gets back to your borrowing power, so.
Right.
Yeah, you don't want to screw around.
I'd rather get rid of that CCRF internal sooner than later, because then it gives us more flexibility, because I look at it too, with it being in the budget. Once that's paid off, now we've got $100,000 that we can reallocate somewhere else. And that would actually cover the debt payments for John's vehicle.
Take money out of reserves to pay that.
But it should have been taxed back in 2021.
Oh, I know.
It has to
Play
be
with the
taxed.
book, take it out of reserves to pay it.
I know. So that's everything that we have put in and taken out, and we're down to 11.96. So if council's good with that, then we're going to move forward with the budget bylaw, getting the media release ready for that, all that kind of stuff, to have that ready for next council meeting. I'll look for council's direction.
Yeah, and just what the deputy mayor said in the media release, maybe we can just pass that on to Will. What we started at, or what staff started at,
50%,
51.
51%. That's what we started at.
anyway, and then,
And then this is what we come back
Yeah.
down, so.
yeah. And then basically what we put the pen through.
Yeah.
Just a couple of main items.
We will make sure, that it's in there that, council had some good thorough conversation, had some good discussions with staff. And, yeah, we'll put together, we'll make sure the media release is given to council first before it goes out. But the intention would be is that media release is then put into the tax bills instead of the quarterlies this time. They'll see a breakdown of kind of where things are being funded at.
Yeah, by putting the quarterlies in with a tax bill, we weren't really sending a good message. Because they're pissed off at their taxes. And then we send this little letter.
Honestly, a lot of them don't read
Copies
them.
on it and stuff.
They bring their tax bills in and they haven't even
They
opened
have
them.
open their.
And then they just throw the quarterly in our recycling bin
Yeah.
outside our tax window.
Cause they think it's like every other junk mail, that's, donate here or do this. That's what we should add on to is donations accepted. Not seriously, to recreation funds or anything else like that. Or in kind, gifts, so. Hey, you gotta ask. But in the meantime, when the CAO and I are gonna be busy strumming up business of some sort, we get this tariff thing settled.
It'll never be settled, not for 4 years. Or longer.
Okay, then nothing else, I'll, move by. Oh, okay, I just have an announcement, are you, Adrian, are you coming tomorrow, or you got something on? No,
Should be okay, no.
well, for all counselors. And staff, you want, at Hall's Apple Orchard tomorrow, 10 to, like 10 to 3, or 10 to 4, they're doing, flag.
Seventh anniversary of the Canadian flag.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
nice.
And anyway, I've been asked to speak, but if the deputy mayor and Councillor Pate and whoever else wants to go, get to work. Oh, if you want to take my place, you gotta say a few words, so, if you don't mind. So, anyway, yeah, just tell them I'm sick.
It's on- it's on
Tim, I'm going to Kingston, to be honest with you. There you go.
I'll say, yep, wrap themselves in the flag, coming out of the showers. Trips on the flag.
No, we're going to Kingston. Yeah. My apologies. Anyway,
So 10 o'clock.
speeches are at 1.
Speeches are all. Oh.
So I was you and go 12.
12:30, 12:30.
So moved by Deputy Mayor Ryan, seconded by Councillor Pate, be resolved that bylaws number 3767-2025 confirm the proceedings of Council of the Township of Augusta at its meeting held on February 14, 2025. Be read first time, second time, third time, and be enacted as read. All question, all in favor? Carried. Yeah. And moved by Councillor Page, seconded by Deputy Mayor Winans, be resolved this council do now adjourn, let's see. Till February 24th. 6 P.M.
Yeah.
Call bearer subject to need. Call question, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle.
Safe travels home, Michelle, tomorrow.
Trip home.
Bring the sunshine.
I'll try and bring some warm weather too.
Perfect, yeah.
Bye, guys.
Take care.
Bye, Michelle.
It comes in increments of 5,000.